Hello and welcome to the 2003 International Motorcycle and Scooter Show with me, Fran Robinson.
And me, Wazza, where we're here in soggy old Birmingham to come and find out what's going to be floating our two-wheel boat over the next 12 months.
There's all sorts of stuff. There's prototypes, race replicas, race bikes, racers, helmets, leathers, everything.
More than you can shake a stick at, and I can't wait because 2004 looks like it's going to be the year for the big 1000cc sports bike. I, for one, can't wait to go and have a look at those.
I thought you'd be checking those out. That's typical. So typical of you. And of course, there's one other thing the show would not be complete without.
You, the great general public. So we look forward to seeing you here. Hope you have a good time. Anyway, the other thing I'm looking forward to checking out, as well as all the bikes, is, of course, the half-naked women. Sorry.
Well, I'll check out the half-naked bikes for you. Keep it on a two-wheel level, you know what I mean. Let's get on with the show.
All right.
The International Motorcycle and Scooter Show is recognised as the premier event for two-wheeled transport in the UK. The show attracted over 193,000 visitors last year, and the organisers are confident of surpassing that target this year. This is a broad-ranging show featuring all the latest models with a few debuts and nice surprises thrown in. There's something for everyone. Custom biking, classic village, club corner, mini moto, and even world champion trials riders attempting to ride up a 30-foot indoor waterfall. More of that later. Now over to Wazza.
Every once in a while, miraculous things happen. The planets align, Halley's Comet passes overhead, the ground shakes, and marvellous motorcycles are made. This year is one of those years because 3 of the big 4 manufacturers have released brand new, all singing, all dancing 1000cc superbikes. We are truly blessed this year. The big question is, which one do you want to see first? What about the Fireblade? Because that's what we've got here. Now, the first thing you're going to notice about this bike when you get up close and personal with it is there are a host of dinky little touches. First of all, there's that electronic steering damper up there on the top yoke, which is super trick, and also the clocks, which look like they've been ripped straight off Steve Plater's British Superbike from last season. But as well as that, Honda have taken the blade to town. Let's go on the motor first. Lightened up inside, beefed up to 998ccs, new fuel injection. Honda are no clowns when it comes to making a good engine with plenty of usable power, so this thing's unlikely to be any slouch. It's the same deal with the chassis, where they've made a brand new die-cast aluminium frame for the blade. It's sharper, more aggressive than it was before, which is probably why it needs that steering damper, although we'll have to wait for a road test for real to see. But the biggest thing they've drawn on here is their racing heritage, particularly in MotoGP. They'd be fools not to with what Rossi's been doing for them lately. And at the back there, you've got that Unit Pro Link suspension, just like what that Mr. Rossi had for 2003. Now, being Honda, they've not been shouting about this. Look at the colours. It's not massively exciting, but I'll bet when we ride it, it's a different story. So that's my opinion, but what about the visiting public? What do they make of the new blade? Does it mark a return to the ethos of that original model back in '92?
It's not a Suzuki. Suzuki GSX-1000, better quality, better handling, better power.
It's a nice looking bike, you know. I like the colors. It's red, white, and blue, pretty patriotic.
I just picked up an older Fireblade. I was debating whether I should wait to get this one or not. It's definitely nice. I like the pipes under the seat. Excellent.
I think it's definitely, I think the prettiest looking 1000, definitely. I like the shape. So far, yeah, I'd say it's probably the best, but I also do like the GSX. I do like the look of the new GSX-R. But like I said, I need to have a go on it. That's where it tells, really. Once I've had a go on it, yeah, give a better opinion.
I just think when they bring new bikes out, why do they do stupid things like leave big plastic mirrors on it and big plastic indicators? That's the other thing, do you know what I mean? The bike looks great, but I'd just take loads of bits off of it.
So here it is, the brand new R1. Admittedly, the colours are a little bit sombre, but this bike should be anything but. Let's just go from the front end. Yamaha have altered the geometry on this bike completely for this year. The frame is not only 200% stiffer, but it's also 70mm narrower, and you can feel that straight away when you sit on the bike. The result of this, the engine has been angled forward in the frame more. That's a development they've got from MotoGP. Now that gets a bit more weight up to the front, allows them to change the geometry, and also helps with this narrowing effect. One downside, it may be a little flighty, just in case this is the first R1 to come with a steering damper as standard. Moving down to the back end, we've got these under-seat titanium exhausts, which quite simply are trick as you like. Now, we're still going to be in sort of pub in specifics, looking at the power. We're going to have to make it up. We've got claims at the moment. We've not seen this on a dyno, but I know a man who has. Apparently, a certain British Superbike team have had theirs on the dyno, and they've had this making more horsepower, they wouldn't say how much, but more than a standard GSX-R 1000. All this means that 2004 should be very, very interesting indeed.
With me now is top British athlete Ewan Thomas, and Ewan is a big R1 fan. So Ewan, what do you think of the new R1?
Oh, can't wait to get my hands on it, I hope. It's beautiful. I've got the current R1, which I've had about 3 or 4 months, and I love riding that bike. And the new one, just sitting on it, it's completely different riding position. It feels really light, feels quite small and compact, and
they've made it even sleeker, haven't they?
Yeah.
Which you just can't imagine them to do that.
It just looks so nice, can't wait.
Yeah. So you've got a current R1.
Yep.
So how long have you actually been riding bikes?
Well, I passed my test years ago, 1991, actually before I passed my car test. But then I've left it for like 10 or so years before I got a bike again. And crazy or not, I went straight to the R1. So a lot of people think I was a bit mad going from like, I think I had a Yamaha TZR125, passed my test, then got cars for the next 10 years. And now suddenly I've jumped onto an R1.
Straight onto an R1.
Yeah.
I would say you were insane.
In the winter time as well. But,
oh my goodness.
No, I find it quite easy to ride actually. I find it a really good bike, and I got on it and obviously respect the bike at all times, and I took it easy for the first few weeks of having it, and as I've grown with confidence, obviously I push the bike a bit more, but I find perhaps because it is so powerful, it's quite an easy bike to ride, I think.
That's it. I mean, a lot of people find it, the problem I think with the R1 is that the front end's hard to keep down because it is very twitchy if you just give it a bit too much throttle. But
I've done that a few times by accident, coming out of roundabouts and the front end, oops, and hold it down a bit, but But no, I love it. I've enjoyed every moment of it.
Well, as you can see, the new R1 attracts a lot of attention, and if you buy one, you're guaranteed to make lots of new friends. And with results like this, I cannot wait to actually ride it in a couple of months' time.
And Wazza will be back to review the final of the 3 major 1000cc bikes being unveiled at the show. That is, if we can stop him drooling over the R1. And it's not just the big guns being unveiled at the show this year. We can't forget those learner legals either, as we've all been learners at some time or another. Now, some of the old favourites are being phased out due to those emission-conscious Eurocrats. Yes, they've struck again. One such bike is the Honda NSR 125. That 2-stroke engine has now been replaced with a 4-stroke CBR 125R. The single-cylinder motor has an electric start, 6 gears, and is held in a rigid twin-spar steel frame and a balancer shaft to keep it smooth. It has aggressive race replica styling and full coverage aerodynamic fairing. It's designed to mimic the CBR 600RR, and let's face it, if you are stuck on a 125, you may as well be on something a little bit slicker and a little bit more stylish than most learner legals. Onto something a little less sexy, but an old favourite all the same, the CG 125. For 2004, this great workhorse has been completely revamped with sharp new styling, a single-cylinder 4-stroke motor with electric start, carb heater, front disc brake and pillion grab rails. An added bonus of the heater kicking in at temperatures below 10 degrees, making the CG child's play to fire up, especially on those cold winter mornings. With its low running costs and a price tag of about £2,000, the new CG is set to be the new generation's much-loved learner. But what do these learners think of the 2 new offerings from Honda?
It looks more like the Hornet now, the 600 Hornet, which makes it look like a bigger bike really. They put the round light on the front instead of the rectangle one, which just makes it look a bit meatier really. I know it's only a 125, but it's street cred in that.
Initial impressions are very, very impressed. The single biggest feature that I have noticed improvement wise is the disc brake on the front, replacing the drum. It'll be a lot better than for motorcyclists moving from the 125 up onto a larger bike to get a feel of the brakes.
And now it's welcome back to a hugely popular learner, the Yamaha DT125RE. The DT is one of the most popular 2-stroke engines that Yamaha have, and changes for 2004 ensure that it will pass EU laws. It's been resurrected with a catalytic converter and air induction system in the exhaust. On the styling front, the graphics are as new as the bodywork, front lights and instruments. Other than that, it's still the good old DT. You. Now we're going to catch up with Wazza, who'll be drooling over yet another sports bike.
Well, I've managed to drag myself away from the R1, and I'm glad that I did, because here we are with Kawasaki ZX-10. For me, I think this is going to be the bike of the show. You can tell that this is press day and it's early in the morning, because this place would be rammed otherwise. I think it's going to be very busy here. So far, I've only seen this thing in pictures. Now sitting on it, yes, it is tiny. They're reckoning 165 kilos, 170 horsepower. We'll find out for real when we get to ride it, but either way, Kawasaki know how to make a fast motorcycle. And it's great to see that at last they've brought out a big bore sports bike that should go head to head with the very best, maybe even ace them. In terms of the technology we got going on here, there's that 998cc motor, 170 brake horsepower, there's a slipper clutch fitted as standard, magnesium engine covers, and up at the front end, as you've got to have on any big superbike these days, upside down forks with the radial calipers. But Kawasaki's ace is the wavy brake discs. No one has made these as standard yet. The theory is these edges help slice into the brake pads some more, give you extra friction, extra braking. They'll eat your brake pads quicker as well. But one thing is for certain, they look very trick, just like the rest of this bike. Martin, how does it feel then to now have a proper big bore sports bike, serious contender in the Kawasaki lineup?
I think Kawasaki are back in the hunt very much. I mean, the ZX-9 was very well thought of, but people do a lot of comparative tests and they want to compare actual like for like. So 1000cc bikes are, you know, the happening thing in the what we call the hypersports class now.
Why is it you think everyone's come out with new models apart from Suzuki this year in the class? Why do you think this has become the focus for 2004?
I think the magazines, the enthusiast magazines have something to do with it, and people like to read comparative tests, and we've seen with the 600 class, I mean Kawasaki were first in the 600 class, but now that's an established class, and with the thousands we've returned to an old capacity class that people as old as me, and bless you, you're not quite that old, mate, but people as old as me remember when we had a Z1000, for instance. There was a class for thousands. Now there is another class for thousands. This time it's cost hypersports.
Okay, well let's get down to the nitty gritty now. How much is it going to be?
We're talking in the region of £8,500.
Okay then, and when can we get our grubby little mitts on them in the dealers?
You're talking about early next year. I can't be specific right now because production hasn't started, but early next year.
Okay, and the final, most important question is, can I have one?
I think that one's yours, actually.
Really? If you could just take the scratch off the tank, it'd be fine.
No problem.
Thanks very much. So now we've seen the three new thousands, what do we think? Well, we're not going to know for certain how these three new thousands all stack up until we do get to ride them all back to back. However, in my opinion, how do I feel about them? Well, the R1, I loved it when it first came out. But since then, it's not quite flapped my flag. It's not quite steered as quickly as it could straight out of the crate. So we'll have to wait to ride that to see if it's going to be really exciting. But also, those dull colours have left it not at the top of my list. The Fireblade, it's a Honda. We can bet it's going to be awesome to ride, but it looks a little sanitised as well. So for me, the winner in the big thousand so far has to be green. It's the Kawasaki. It's brand new, they don't want to mess about, they want to knock the GSX-R 1000 off the top slot. They've proven they can do good work with the old ZX-6. Let's see what happens.
The popularity of motorcycling holidays has surged over the past 5 years, taking a larger slice of the £75 billion us Brits spend on holidays each year. This year you can tour the world without leaving the confines of the bike show. Whether you want to trial ride Tibet or ridge ride the Rockies, everything you need to know on how to plan or book your trip is on show. The more adventurous can apply to ride around the world in 95 days, covering 18 countries and 30,000 miles. And you can't get more adventurous than world record holder Nick Sanders. So Nick, tell me about your Moto Challenge.
Well, the Moto Challenge of GB is a ride around Britain. It's 3,000 miles, it lasts a week, and it's to do with hard road riding. You're going across the public highway to get to a racetrack where we race. So we gain a series of points, you see, and that builds in trophies and prize winners, medals and so forth, and we get a grand champion. And it's a whole series of events, which include the one that goes around Wales and Ireland, and also a Moto Challenge of Europe, which goes from Bilbao to Amsterdam. So it's a kind of trilogy of Moto Challenge events. It's kind of pushing the whole thing forward, you know, the new way forward for motorcycle touring.
But you do go further afield though, don't you, as well?
Yeah, I've been riding for 20 years, so you know, if anyone's going to try and push this whole thing forward, I guess it's me really. I do a trip to Alaska in 17 days. I do a trip around the whole of North America and Mexico in 29 days. And we do something like 400-mile days. But the big one really is when I go around the world in 60 days, and that I'm doing in September, October with a small group of riders, and we go to about 27 countries.
I'm exhausted listening to you. What bike do you use for all this stuff?
I use a Yamaha R1, and I mean, last year I went around the world twice on the R1 and did 50,000 miles, and yeah, it's a great bike. I love it. It suits me perfect.
I was going to say it's not your actual kind of stereotypical tour bike, but I'm sure it seems some action anyway. So thank you very much for that, Nick. Okay. Well, that's it. We need to take a break, but don't go away because there's plenty more to come from the 2003 International Motorcycle and Scooter Show.
Welcome back to the Bike File NEC Show special, where I am here with the man of the moment, World Superbike Champion, Neil Hodgson. Now Neil, this time last year we just unveiled the 999. You were saying how you were looking forward to the season on it. Fair to say it went pretty well, didn't it?
It went awesome, yeah. I won the championship, so it seems funny to be back at the NEC as world champion. I actually never thought that would happen. That sentence wouldn't go together. You know, Neil Hodgson at the NEC, world champion,
world superbike champion. Has it sunk in yet?
It's sunk in now, yeah, definitely. Because I've had a few nights celebrating, and I've had time to sort of stew on it. So yeah, it's sunk in. I mean, it was a good season. I worked really hard, and I'm happy.
Well, you took pole positions, double race wins. A lot. Could they have asked for more?
No, I mean, you know, I could have won more races, but I won 13. So I mean, but I'm a racer, so you're never happy really. But
happy as you're going to be for the time being. But
exactly.
This is yesterday's bike. It's old hat. You don't want it anymore. What we want is one of these.
We want one of these. This is what it's all about. You see now. That's forget about that.
That's slow.
That's
slow.
Forget it.
Nah.
This is what it's all about. Look, if you look, I'll hold my hands out, I'm shaking, look. Whenever I get near this thing, it makes me a little bit nervous.
Have you actually tested it yet?
No. Thankfully not.
What sort of power difference are we looking at between that and this?
Well, I think this bike should have about 50 brake horse more than that. And it weighs about 20 kilos lighter.
So
it's going to be, the power to weight ratio, this is an animal, that's not. You know what I mean?
That's like a learner bike.
Exactly.
What are you going to do for training to get yourself ready for this?
I've absolutely no idea yet. I'm still scratching my head of what to do, but I'm testing it in about a month's time, and I'm going to test it and then work out a plan after I've tested it.
Here you are with the bike. This time next year, it'll be Neil Hodgson, Moto GP champion. Just continue the form.
I actually don't think that's going to happen, and I don't want that to come across as being negative, but I am a realist, and there's no point in putting too much pressure on myself. You know what I mean? If I stand here and say, no, I definitely will be world champion, yeah, everybody's going to sit at home going, unfortunately, Neil's been drinking too much last night. So I'm a realist, but I'm going to give 100%. And next year when I'm talking to you, you'll be saying, what a good year you've had, and I'll be saying, yeah, we've got a better chance next year. That's my plan anyway.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Ducati's Sport Classic range draws on their great success back in the 1970s, particularly 1972. Now, I forget the exact date of their crowning glory, but this man here, Paul Smart, he was riding the bikes at the time. He should know a bit more. Paul, what exact date was it and what was the occasion?
23rd of April 1972, and this is Imola, the Imola 200 race in northern Italy, and it happened to be my birthday. It's one of those golden days.
You cleaned up on a bike that it bore a resemblance to this, it looked like it, but if you were to wheel this one out onto that grid back in 1972, how much do you think you'd have won by?
Well, yeah, that's just about it. How much would you have won by, you know, with the modern technology in this motorcycle? I mean, as a standard street bike, it's probably got 5 or 6 horsepower more than my race bike did, but when you add all the suspension, brakes and all the massive advances in chassis and everything, this would have just walked it. It would have been wonderful.
But even though the technology's brought it forwards, how true do you think this range is to your race bike and the other bikes of that era?
Well, I mean, Pierre Terbalanche has done an absolutely fantastic job of taking a lot of the significant little details, and big details, of course, number one being the colour,
The original
of the
silver
original
metal
bike,
flake.
yes, and it's very similar in shape. If you put the race bike alongside this bike, you'll see so many similarities. Right down to obviously the background of the instruments, the dials being white, and silly little things like the fuel tank cap is always the same shape. But all these little bits come together to make the motorcycle.
And as well as that, you even get your name on the side of this one now.
Well, yes, it's wonderful, isn't it? I mean, what bigger honour can anyone sort of bestow on you? It's fantastic.
And now from Ducatis that draw on the firm's heritage to the bikes that look towards their future. This is their newest sports bike in the lineup. It's the 749R. Now inside here is basically a 749S spec motor, so that's got the lighter titanium cod rods and all that stuff, so it revs up quicker. There's Öhlins front and rear, the top yoke is beautiful, but the most important thing about this bike that you can't really see, it doesn't do it justice in pictures, is simply how beautiful and compact it is. It is an absolute work of art. Now, even though it's going to be expensive to buy, it's liable to depreciate pretty badly in its first year as well. As a beautiful motorcycle to own, this thing is still stunning. Anyway, now it's over to Fran.
Every year the show has a live action arena. This year the arena offers both motorcycle and cycle trials.
Reigning multiple World Trials champion Dougie Lampkin plus Cyclo Trials champion Ott P and Cesar Canas will attempt to ride up this 30-foot indoor waterfall. The obstacle is so challenging, only one rider can attempt it at any time.
The only indoor waterfall in Europe is just one of the bike-breaking obstacles forming part of the indoor circuit in the arena. In an added twist, the world's leading trial riders are pitched against each other to determine whether man is better than machine at riding over seemingly impossible objects, including a double quarter pipe jump that will launch the riders 40 feet into the air.
Well, I've managed to grab Dougie before he starts on his mission of the day. So Dougie, tell me, you're going to be doing this waterfall a bit later on?
Yeah, basically we're demonstrating quite a few sections, including the waterfall that was at last year's Sheffield Arena Trial. And
that must be a double for you, that.
It's not too bad. It's not the easiest section, I must admit, but it's quite testing really for the demonstration.
Right. So what's your plan then? You come in from the top.
No, we're coming from here over the rocks where we sat, and over to the left-hand side.
Yeah.
And get the line and just basically go straight up the left-hand side, come down the centre, turn again on the bottom, up the right-hand side, down the centre, and back off.
So basically, any of those people that think, well, just go up that bit, forget it because you've got to do it all anyway.
Yes.
Now, I've just started off-roading and I am absolutely loving it, but obviously I feel that I need all the protection, the elbows, the chest, everything. So what tips can you give me?
Basically starting off in off-road, probably trials is the cheapest sport. You can buy a bike, £500. There's competitions everywhere through the local clubs, and you just go along and have fun. That's the main thing. Also now there's just starting trials, tryout days, which are on the go, and just giving people the opportunity to get into off-road and get hooked.
So what does 2004 hold for you then?
Hopefully much of the same. Obviously I've lost the indoor championship for the last 2 years. I finished second both years, but the main goal is the world outdoor. I've won it consecutive for the last 7 years and equalled the record, so we're going for another one of those and hopefully we can get it.
I don't doubt your capabilities whatsoever.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dougie.
Thank you.
Modern takes on old classics seem to be all the rage at the show this year, as we've just seen having had a look at Ducati's new Sport Classic range, which is an old school style with a real Italian flair. But it's not just the Italians who can do it, we can do it here in Britain, as Triumph have managed to prove with this Thruxton. Now the motor that's in there, that comes out of the old Bonneville, so it's well tested, but it's been bored out to 865cc's for a little more oomph. And for all you purists out there, you'll be pleased to know there's not a hint of fuel injection inside. It's carbs only when you get onto this. As for the styling, fully pared down, black and chrome, cafe racer. Very slick, very beautiful. But if you want to enjoy your pleasure on the Thruxton with someone else, you might have a problem. There's a pillion seat under that seat hump, but it is pretty awful. However, at $5.5 grand new, thereabouts, this is looking like a real smart motorcycle. Anyway, now it's time to go and have a look at Triumph's other new offering for next year. This is the Rocket 3 and it's absolutely enormous. It's got a 2.3 litre motor in there. You can see it's an inline triple, so you've got the 3 exhausts sticking out down the side of each cylinder there. It looks like half of a Honda Flat 6, but you get around the other side, obviously there's nothing coming out there. Even so, 2,300 cc's, 140 bhp, and a phenomenal amount of torque. This thing should be eating tyres in no time. As well as that, Triumph have kept it on the boil. They've got upside down forks here. This is virtually unheard of in cruiser territory. Obviously this is still a cruiser, but with so much more attitude and power and go, you could really shock a few people in a straight line on one of these. They're not exactly sure when it'll be out yet, but hopefully we'll get plenty of them for sale over here. To find out some more about the Rocket 3 and Triumph's plans for next year, I've got with me Triumph's UK Head of Sales and Marketing, Bruno Tagliaferri. Now Bruno, what exactly was the thought behind making this bike? Because it is huge.
Well, this bike was conceived about 5 years ago. That's when the thinking started, and the plan there was to have something that would really give us some growth in the American market. At that stage, the Americans had been marketing the Ranger bikes that we were making from the factory, but it was clear that if we were to take a growth of sales in that market, which is incidentally significant, particularly in cruisers, then we had to have a very serious cruiser machine for those customers.
And could it have got more serious than this? Was this seriously the biggest thing you could come up with?
Well, when it started, we were looking at an 1800, but we knew that the lead time was going to be about 3 years. The decision was taken shortly after that to go up to 2,300cc, which is what we've done.
So you're still coming out with the biggest one. This is a prototype at the moment. How much more work is there before it comes into the final production stages?
We're virtually there now. We've done a lot of the testing. We've managed to source nearly all the components. There's still a couple of last minute things, but the bike, we're very confident, should go on sale in the UK late April, early May.
Kawasaki have lacked a Fazer Hornet competitor for some time now, and it's cost them. But with the launch of the storming Z1000, the solution was simple: lower the capacity and take on the naked middleweights with style.
In the head, the ports and combustion chamber have been reshaped to suit the reduced displacement. This bike also runs fuel injection, which is rare for the class and features a dual throttle valve system similar to many sports bikes.
Like the Z1000, the Z750 uses a steel spine frame, and the running gears on the smaller bike are obviously lower spec. Now, to save on costs, the suspension are budget conventional 41mm forks and a single rear shock, which is adjustable for preload and rebound.
Cost is a major factor in the Z750. To take on the 600s, Kawasaki is expected to price this bike at about £5,000. So for the price of a 600, you get a 750 with extra power and torque. Very tempting indeed.
Now, I actually love the Z1000. It's smooth, I've spent a long time on one, and it's got a lot of power there, and it's low down, which is quite good for us women. Now, basically, whether or not I'd want to drop a few cc's and go lower in price, I don't know, but basically the Z range is looking very enticing, let's face it. The styling of these bikes is just wonderful. It looks mean and it means business. But will it compete with the Hornet and the Fazer? Well, I don't see why not. But how have the punters taken to the Z750?
It's in a bracket where Kawasaki's been lacking in a model, so priced at I think they're going to be about 4.5 plus on the road costs, so priced in that, yeah, should be a good competitor.
750 styling, I think it really rocks, but it's like the 1000, and except it hasn't got the rocket launcher exhaust on the back, and I think that sort of spoils it. You know, it's sort of the same, only not quite as good, so it loses a bit, but the price is good, and it's a cool looking bike. It's the way forward for this sort of bike.
As a smaller brother to the 1000, yes, it's probably it's in a class and it's in a price range that's probably complement the 1000 very well.
The Z750 is a scaled-down version of the 1000's lump. It seriously has the potential to out-thrill the Hornet. Can't wait to give it a go.
And from one baby brother to another. This bike here, it looks like a V-Strom, but it is actually the love child of the V-Strom and the SV650, which sounds a little bit crazy, but it might just work. After all, that SV650 motor has been helping people learn to ride and get on with having a right good laugh on motorbikes for a few years now. So to put it in a bike even more user-friendly with this big upright riding position, little fairing in front of you with three-way adjustable screen, you'll be pleased to know, and a host of other robust features, makes a lot of sense. It's not sexy, it's not going to turn loads of heads, but for getting about day to day on a motorcycle and having a bit of fun into the bargain on something that isn't going to break overnight, this could be the surprise seller of 2004.
Well, I'm here at the race paddock, which is a new feature here at the bike show, and it gives you the chance to see what access to the pit lane VIP style is really like. We're also going to be giving you an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at what's happening with the teams competing in the MotoGP, World Superbike Series and British Superbike Series.
The Japanese aren't the only ones who've gone 1000cc mad for next year. The Italians have been hard at work as well. There's Laverda's new SFC, MV have brought out 1000cc F4, and as well as that, who could forget Aprilia's Mille Factory. Now this is the new version of the Mille R. Some of you will be lucky enough already to have these sitting in your garages because they've been on sale for a couple of months now. Having ridden the bike on its launch back in Mugello not so long ago, this thing is an absolute perler. The motor's got a little bit more oomph, which I've been crying out for a couple of years now. You've got radial brakes up at the front, usual quality Öhlins at both ends, but as well as that, the styling is much more together, and the bike, the way it handles, it's got a much more compact feel, it flicks more easily. Some people found the old Mille a little clunky and unwieldy. That feeling is all but gone now. It's still an acquired taste being a big V-twin, but I would recommend trying it if your pockets are deep enough. As well as the Mille Factory, there's also a very limited edition, very special version called the Nera. Now to find out more about it, I've got Aprilia UK's Head of Marketing, Paul Walker. This is the bike behind us, Paul. This is the Nera. Just tell us exactly what the spec is on it.
Well, it's factory spec plus carbon fibre completely. The bodywork is completely carbon fibre.
Including the tank, including everything.
Everything. It has 4 more horsepower than the standard bike.
Lovely, courtesy of those titanium cans?
Absolutely, yes, and a few internals. Also, in the price, you get riding kit, leathers, dedicated leathers. You get the helmet, you get gloves, you get boots. But the magic bit is you get the bike presented to you in Italy by Mr. Beggio, the president of the company.
Excellent. Do they fly you?
All expenses paid.
Your flight to Italy's covered. And just for this wonder package, what's the damage?
35,000 euros.
What's that in real money?
Around £25,000, depending on the exchange rate, of course.
Sounds like a bargain, and a holiday as well.
Yes. It's a very special bike. You know there are only 200 of them. Yeah. Very, very personal. I'm sure it'll become a collector's item in the future.
Yeah, no, a beautiful looking piece. And Aprilia aren't the only Italian factory who are bringing out a new 1000 for next year, because MV have got a 1000cc version of their drop-dead gorgeous 750cc F4. Now the lines and the bodywork and the chassis stay the same, but somehow, despite this bike still being so narrow, they have shoehorned an inline 4 1000cc motor in there. They're claiming 166 brake horsepower, and although the estimated price was £17,000, you'll be relieved to know it's down to a mere £14,000 now when they finally get them in the UK in mid-2004. Now, you're unlikely to get Japanese reliability out of this, but one of these, with more power and just as much beauty to look at, has got to be a wonderful thing to have.
Well, that's it for part 2. Join us again in part 3 when there'll be more treats from the International Motorcycle and Scooter Show, and I'll be looking at the latest commuter bikes.
And I am going to be looking at the biggest V-twin motor ever made.
See you in a mo. Welcome back to a special edition of Bike File, coming to you from the International Motorcycle and Scooter Show 2003. Now this show is not just about manufacturers unveiling their latest bike. It's also about trying new biking sports, such as mini moto.
New for 2003, this circuit is offering visitors the chance to ride on the smallest motorcycles about. The Mini Moto circuit offers displays from experienced riders and gives you the chance to try out the bikes for yourself. Visitors must be aged 12 or over to participate in Mini Moto racing.
Around 15 bikes can go out at one time, and I think I'm actually getting the hang of it, to be honest with you. Now it's over to Wazza, who's found something a little bigger than these pocket rockets. Oh, I'm going now.
While sports bikes and race bikes just keep getting lighter, faster and smaller, cruisers, it would seem, are doing quite the opposite, getting bigger, more over the top and shinier. And they don't get any bigger than this. Kawasaki's VN2000, quite simply the largest production V-twin ever at 2,052 cc's. That is bigger than the average family car. And sitting on it, I'm not the shortest bloke around, but this thing feels huge. It's quite hilarious just to get on board and see the size of that petrol tank. Now as well, it was pointed out to me earlier that this here headlamp has been specially designed. Kawasaki have spent months perfecting it. I'm not quite sure exactly why. All I can say is it's very, very shiny. If you like old school technology as well, you'll be pleased to know this is a pushrod motor, so there's plenty of that to keep you happy. Question is, are you going to be buying it?
I think it's very nice. I like the design, like the colour. That's about it really. I just think it's a really chunky, nice bike. If I was into lowriders myself, I think I'd buy one, yeah.
And now it's over to Fran, who's checking out some bikes that are a little more sensible than this. Although, as you can see, it seems to be perfect family transport.
Yes, in fact, Wazza, these bikes are incredibly sensible. Here we have the CBF 600, and this is the fared version, the S. Now, with the CBF 600, Honda could well have a significant bike for 2004. The CBF has all the legendary build quality that Honda require, and yet it has a seriously budget price tag.
A lightly shackled 1998 CBR 600F engine powers the CBF. Honda claim a carb-fed 76 brake horsepower at 10,500 RPM. The CBF's styling is an odd mix. The tail unit is modern, but the tank's pure retro and could be from any middleweight CB of the past 15 years.
The bike's seat height is adjustable, which is handy for us ladies, and the handlebars move 10mm back and forth.
An option of a half fairing or naked, ABS or normal brakes and a range of colours should keep punters busy. This is a lot of bike for the price.
Onto a cool commuter, the CBF 500. The outgoing CB 500 was the only bike to make a parallel twin engine enjoyable. Well, the CBF 500 is much of the same, but with new model styling.
Modern running gear reaches the 500 commuter class with a backbone frame similar to that of the Hornets and the CBF 600. The tank has a new modern look with a 19-litre capacity. The seat's been restyled and a pillion grab rail has been added. Cast aluminium 6-spoke wheels are new, and as with the CBF 600, ABS will be an option on the 500.
This little Honda is perfect for someone looking for a cheap, light commuter bike. So what do I think to the CBF 500 and 600? Well, it does have a hint of Hornet in there, and basically it's going to be a smooth ride, it's going to be a reliable ride, and so what if it doesn't look like the most exciting things on two wheels? Basically, it's going to get you there, and as a commuter, that's what you want.
And from one basic middleweight to another. Although the Fazer is slightly less basic than the CB500, it's still an all-rounder that's aimed at people who are coming back to bikes or just want a bike that's going to do everything with a bit of fun. Now, the old model always did that very well, I thought, and at a good price. Having been on the launch of this one a couple of months ago in Austria, it was very slick. It was certainly a smoother bike to ride than the old one, but it didn't quite float my boat. What do you reckon, Fran?
Slick and smooth?
Slick and smooth.
Should suit you down to the ground then. Now, this is interesting actually, because I know you didn't particularly like it. You like the old one. Now, I went on the old one for a week in France, and it's like, why don't you like this one better?
Why don't I just sit on it and see what you think? It's
see, it's got an R6 engine, hasn't it?
Yes.
Well, is that not better than the old engine?
It's still got a stiff gearbox, which you don't want on an easygoing bike, and it's not quite got enough bottom end like the old one used to have.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you've got this top end that is a bit toned down from the R6, and it just, back to back, this doesn't feel quite as happy in the motor, even though it is it's a smoother, it's a better finished package. But
yeah,
just for me, it would have to be the old one.
I found the old one very revvy. And I was up and down the gears like the proverbial, to be honest with you.
Well, I think the only thing I can say is this matches your outfit splendidly.
Yeah.
So maybe you need to get it out there. It's just the right size for you.
What do you think of the naked one?
The naked one, I think that looks a lot better, but we haven't ridden it yet. They haven't launched it yet, so I'm just worried it's going to have that same motor. But then for people who were coming back to bikes, this would still be a very well finished package. But do try the old one first because you might save a few quid.
I'll have this one then, yeah?
The show isn't just about new models, there are many other features. Custom Extreme is a feature of the show providing information and advice on all things related to custom motorcycles. Many motorcycles on display come from some of the UK's most talented individuals in this field.
There's many of us all around the country that are interested in power, and at the same time we're interested in individualism, where we can be the individual, one only bike. As you can see, these two bikes here are individual bikes. You won't see another bike like it around the show, and that's what we're trying to achieve. So when people see the bike, they instantly recognise it with us.
The Classic Village is a well-established area of the show. Displays feature bikes from yesteryear, and you can also pick up a bargain from the many memorabilia stands.
When you look at all the modern machines up here, they really evolved from these sort of bikes because there's ideas on these bikes which have been copied over the years. And I think it's nice to see, especially these machines, because they're winners all over the country of classic shows. So you've got the best bikes in the country, and all the inventions. There's suspension under the Vincent C, which it's been copied by the Japanese and the Italians. So it's history, and it's lovely to see them here.
Finally, Club Corner offers access to many of the motorcycle clubs in existence throughout the country. So if you fancy talking to the like-minded people about your motorcycle, then this is the place to be.
Supermoto has long been heralded as the next big thing in biking, but it's only now, in 2003, that we finally see one of the major manufacturers jumping on the bandwagon for real and bringing out their own fully ready Supermoto road bike. And here it is, Yamaha's XT660X. That motor in there is a 660cc 4-stroke single that's been well proven and used in a load of Yamahas over the years. All housed in a nice trailer based chassis, big upswept exhausts, nice aggressive styling, and if you look through Yamaha's PR pictures, they are stressing the urban, aggressive nature of this bike. You can use it to go to the shops, you can pull wheelies right the way through the middle of London, do what you like, just don't get caught. Anyway, down at the front here, you'll see they've not skimped on the spec either. There's some decent XL rims, nicely spoked, look very trick, and also quality front disc with Brembo calipers, which means stoppies up to every set of traffic lights are going to be a must. So Yamaha have jumped in with both feet. Question is, will the buying public do the same?
I've got a TDM 850 and I was thinking of moving to this, and it just feels a lot smaller. I'd like to see more like the CCM or something like that, because I think they just rebadged the old XT, but it seems quite nice. Depends how much it is.
Yeah, I think it looks really good. It looks nice, looks very Supermoto-ish, doesn't it? My mate's got an Aprilia Bagasso, he's turned into one, so yeah, I think they look quite good. It's quite like the exhaust how they are, definitely looks different, doesn't it?
It looks the part, definitely seems nice. I mean, obviously can't ride it, but I'd imagine Yamaha are well known for its quality. So yeah, I think it's a good bike.
Well, we've come to the end of this Bike File special here at the NEC.
And it has to be said, we have been treated to a wonderful time.
What's been your favourite bits?
Favourite bits? Well, I think actually getting to see all those thousands in the flesh, for me, has made the day. As well as that, those classic Ducatis, I thought they were going to be rehashed old Supersport models in a new paint job. But no, they're wonderful. I just really hope they go into production.
You didn't say anything about scantily clad ladies then?
No interest to me, Fran.
Well, my favourite bits have been the meatballs for lunch. They were lovely.
They were good, weren't
yeah.
they?
And my mini moto racing.
Yeah?
I raced a mini moto.
Did you win?
Irrelevant. Anyway,
But
end
there
the
was,
show.
wasn't there one other thing that you particularly liked today, Fran, that you mentioned earlier?
Yes, I had my bottom felt.
Fantastic. Well, that's it from the NEC. But join us in the new year when we'll be back with a new series of Bike File. See you then.